Hi, I'm Joe Miller. I'm coming to you from Bali today, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the transitions in vinyasa practice, how to make those transitions a little bit smoother, easier, safer, even more fluid and elegant. I think a useful concept to keep in mind is the idea of reversibility. This is something that Moshe Feldenkrais talked about. He saw reversibility as the hallmark of, or one of the hallmarks of effective fluid movement. And what he meant by that is your ability to change direction. In other words, you're moving forward, you could change direction and move backward at any point during the movement, or you can move sideways. What this means in practical terms is your ability to keep your center of gravity on top of your base of support. In other words, to keep from falling. If your center of gravity moves off your base of support and you're falling, then momentum takes over and you really don't have any choice about how you're moving at that point. You don't have the ability to change course. A good example of this is sitting into a chair. So for me to be able to sit into a chair and make the transition smooth from sitting to standing, I need to be able to keep my center of gravity on top of my feet at all times. And in this way, I'm able to change my mind. So, no, I changed my mind. I don't want to sit back. I don't want to sit down. No, I changed my mind again. Go ahead. And even if I'm just a millimeter off the cushion, I can still change my mind because I've got myself centered on top of my feet throughout the entire movement. At no point am I falling. Sometimes you'll see people have a hard time with this, so that as they're sitting back, at some point their center of gravity falls behind their feet. They plop down the last few inches into the chair. So clearly not really an elegant way to sit into a chair. So how does this apply to vinyasa? Well, during the transitions in a sun salutation, obviously you're changing your base of support, shifting from feet to hands and feet, and your center of gravity is moving in relationship to that base of support. And if you're able to maintain your center of gravity, your center of mass on top of your base of support throughout the movement, then you're going to be able to move with control, which means you're going to be able to land softly and lightly. And as I said before, I think a really useful way to think about this is to ask yourself, would you be able to change your mind at any point during the movement? So let's take as an example, a very simple example from Uttanasana, standing forward fold, stepping the foot back to a lunge. So from the forward fold, I'm able to shift my weight into my right foot and my hands, and then I'm able to keep my weight centered on top of my base of support the whole way back, so I could change my mind. Or I decide to put the foot all the way down on the floor and land in the lunge. But at no point am I falling during that transition. Another example might be transferring yourself from, let's say, something like Ardha Chandrasana or half moon back into Warrior Two. So as I come into half moon, I'm shifting my weight from 2 feet to 1 foot and 1 hand. And then if I'm able to keep my weight in my standing leg during the entire transition, then I could change my mind at any point. Oh no, I decide to come back into Ardha Chandrasana. No, Warrior Two. No, Ardha Chandrasana. And then in this way, I'm able to land softly, lightly, with a little bit less stress in my joints and certainly a little bit less noise and more feeling of elegance. I think probably the stepping back into a lunge and from Uttanasana is not not a transition probably that most people struggle with, but a lot of people do struggle with stepping the foot forward from downward facing dog into a lunge. I think we can think about this in the same way, using this idea of shifting center of mass in relationship to base of support in order to be able to find that feeling of reversibility. And you can change your mind at any point. And if you're able to do that, then you're able to land your foot lightly on the floor. So let's take a look. So if I'm in downward facing dog, as soon as I lift my left foot up off the floor, most of the weight of my upper body is in my left arm because I don't have a leg under that side. The weight is all in the left side.
So if I keep all my weight in my left hand, I try to bring that foot forward, I really don't have room to put the foot forward. But if I'm able to shift my center of mass a little bit more to the right, then I have the room to put the foot down. And that means that I can land the foot softly. As a matter of fact, I could change my mind at any point during the movement. No, I changed my mind. I'm going to go back. Or, yeah, go ahead and put the foot down. And then in this way, I'm able to land, again, softly and lightly. We can apply the same idea to jumping back into chaturanga. Essentially, when you're jumping back into chaturanga, you're going from a folded position where your weight is primarily in your legs to unfolding yourself during the transition. And in that transition, all of your weight is in your hands. Obviously, once your feet leave the floor, you're in an arm balance. And then eventually the base of support shifts to hands and feet once the feet land. So if we're able to maintain the center of mass on top of the hands throughout the whole transition, that means that we're able to land again lightly and softly. So when I'm in Uttanasana, my weight is in my feet primarily, and then in order for me to be able to get my weight into my hands, I have to find that weight shift. So I have to find the weight in the hands. It's a little bit easier, of course, if the hands are a little bit in front of you. Just playing around with getting my weight from my feet into my hands. Once my weight is solidly in my hands, my feet don't need to be on the ground anymore. In other words, I could lift them up off the ground, or I could put them back down. Or I could lift them up again, I could put them down, so I could change my mind here, right? Or maybe I just decide to unfold myself and land in chaturanga. So you don't have to go super slow like that, and you know, that's a little bit kind of just showing off. But the idea is that if you're able to find that weight shift into the hands so that your hands and your arms are bearing your weight, you're going to be able to land quietly without a big thump of your toes on the floor when you land back in chaturanga. This means, of course, that there's a little bit of a, as we unfold ourselves into the position, that there has to be some weight coming forward as the legs go back. So, of course, the chest is coming forward as the legs go back, going from this folded position to an unfolded position to land in chaturanga. We can use the same idea of jumping forward. We're jumping forward, just shifting the weight into the hands, and again, with the idea that you could change your mind. I can change my mind probably for the first couple of inches when I lift my feet up off the floor to make that transition back. When I'm halfway back, I mean, I don't think realistically that I could actually change my mind and come back forward. But for me, it's a useful way to think about it, and it helps me to move in a way that feels a little bit lighter and softer. All right, thanks. I hope that was helpful for you, and thanks for watching.